Now let's look at another scenario. Instead of flying from Wichita direct to Johnson County Executive, let's say we want to follow a flight plan and fly the airways between Wichita and Executive. So what we're going to do is start at Wichita Airport. We're going to go to Wichita VOR, Victor 12, up to OJC VOR, then up to OJC the airport. So to do that, we want to go into flight plan. Now when we press flight plan, you'll see there's two flight plan pages. The first page you hit is flight plan, look up here in the corner, 00. That's our active flight plan. That one's more in a volatile flight plan. Anytime you activate a new one, it'll erase your old one. So that's the one you're actually flying right now. And if you want to store flight plans, it's a trip you're going to take over and over again. You can store it on flight plan page 2. Again, the small knob, one click to the right. If it's a flight plan you're going to use over and over, go ahead to flight plan page 2. You would press menu. Again, menu is your friend. And it comes up with create new flight plan. You press enter and then start scrolling in the waypoints. In this case, I'm only taking this trip once, so I'm not going to waste it in a stored flight plan. I'm going to do it in my other flight plan, in my active flight plan. So I can press clear or cursor. Actually, in this case, it's cursor. Then click one, click to the left, and we're back into our active flight plan. If you look, it already has Wichita in there, the airport. If you want to create a flight plan in your active flight plan and you haven't done a direct to, it'll put in your departure airport automatically. So we save you one button step. So now I want to add on to it. I want to go to Wichita VOR, then up to Emporia, and build the airway in there. So I press cursor and just start scrolling it in. Wichita VOR is ICT. So VORs don't have the K in front of it like the airports did. ICT. Then it drops down to the next waypoint, and it's going to be Emporia VOR. That comprises the airway. And you can go back or forward with the cursor. Emporia. Now we're going to do OJC VOR, which actually is on the field at Executive. But we'll do the full route in here. And this one has a duplicate waypoint. There's two waypoints in there. There's also an OJC VOR in Japan. I don't think we want to go to that one. We'd notice we're a little off course if we're going to Japan. And probably have to get some fuel between here and there. Then we put the airport in, which will be KOJC. Okay, now we have our flight plan in. With the cursor on and the big knob, again, I can scroll down the list. And we can look what's happening. Right now, we're going to fly from Wichita Airport to Wichita VOR. And notice it's a leg in between there. If I turn my cursor off and press flight plan, we'll see it on the map. And there's a whole route going up to Olathe, Kansas. So let's say we're taking off and we start flying. Let's look at a couple different scenarios. We're flying to the VOR, but then in the clearance, all of a sudden they say, Mooney 430 Golf, fly heading 360 to intercept Victor 12. Okay, how are we going to do that? We're going to fly a heading. So you go to heading mode on your autopilot, and you've got to intercept this course line now. So what we'll do there, we're flying a heading to intercept a course. You go to flight plan. Turn your cursor on, and that leg of Victor 12 is between Wichita VOR and Emporia VOR. So I'm going to highlight my destination VOR on that airway, and I press direct to, not once, but twice. And notice it comes up with a box that says activate leg, fly leg Wichita to Emporia. Enter. So now if we look at the map, and I'll zoom it in, get a little better picture of it. I'll actually declutter the map also. Look at it. You can see exactly what's happening. I'll give it a little more speed here. We're flying the heading that he's giving us up to intercept this airway. It's as simple as that. So you want to do that again, just go over it one more time, is go into flight plan, turn on your cursor, highlight the destination waypoint, direct to, enter. Anytime you got to fly a heading to intercept a course. Now let's do a different scenario. We're flying on, and before we get there, they say, you're cleared direct Emporia. Again, let's go to flight plan, turn on our cursor, big knob scroll. I highlight Emporia this time because I'm cleared present position direct to Emporia VOR, not the airway. I just press direct to, enter, enter. And now we're going present position direct Emporia, and we'll pick up the rest of the airway from Emporia on into OJC. So there's a couple scenarios. Now let's do another one. Let's even get trickier with it. Let's say they give us an arrival. So they're going, I better go back to nav mode on my simulator, so it'll couple in here. Let's say they give me a scenario. They say, okay, expect the Jayhawk arrival into Johnson County. So they're going to give me a star into there. Again, what's a star? It's a procedure, just like an approach is a procedure. So we go to the procedure key, and it says select arrival. So I highlight that, I press enter. Which one are they giving me? The Jayhawk 3 arrival. Press enter. Now they're asking which transition on that arrival I'm going to use. Am I going to go Chanute or Emporia? Well, we know Emporia is on our route, so we'll highlight Emporia and enter. Now it asks us to load it into our flight plan. This doesn't give us a choice to activate it. We'll only load it into the flight plan. So now let's look at our flight plan. I turn my cursor on. With the big knob, scroll down. We're going direct to Emporia, to OJC. Then after that, kind of in a different chapter in our flight plan, it has the arrival, the Jayhawk 3 arrival. The flight plan is going to sequence exactly like you see it here. If you wanted to pick up the arrival at Emporia, press direct to, enter, enter. Now you're picking up the arrival into OJC. Let's try one other scenario here. Let's say, as we're flying along, and we're stacking up all the worst case scenarios. Let's say you're cleared Inca, or I can't, again, these intersections and stuff, I guess it's INDIC intersection, and then you're cleared to Emporia. So I'd highlight the area where I want to insert that waypoint, which let's go over here to where ICT is, and just start scrolling in that identifier. And it's INDIC. Okay. So I actually wanted to go to that waypoint first because that's what I was cleared to, direct to, enter, enter. Okay. And now it will pick up, as we're saying, then I want to go ahead, it's got Wichita in there. I don't want that in there, so I'm going to go clear, enter, and remove it. Now everything's going to sequence to this intersection, and then it's going to go pick up our arrival. One last thing on flight plans are, again, don't be scared of that menu key. We press menu, and you have a whole list of options on your flight plan also. You can copy the flight plan. We just created one in the active flight plan. If you end up wanting to store it, you can copy it over to the other side into the stored flight plans. You can invert the flight plan, turn it around and fly it backwards. So look at some of those menu options on maybe your next trip. Now, I want to go over one more scenario. The OBS key. Haven't really talked about it yet. I'm flying up to Emporia VOR right now, and let's say they give me a clearance like hold northwest of Emporia VOR on the 330 degree radial. Well, how do you do it? The OBS key. And why we call it OBS is it actually ties in to your OBS needle. Whatever I dial here on the indicator, or if you've got a standard indicator or the HSI, displays out here on your map. You see that radial I just dialed in. So anything you spin here goes up here, transfers directly into your map. So actually, even though I'm navigating to a VOR, it acts just like a standard VOR. Now when I release the OBS, it retains that last radial I had. So once I come up here, I would intercept that radial, and it would go to Emporia VOR, then follow on. If I just at this point want to go direct to the VOR, I can just press direct to, enter, enter. One last note, when I am in the OBS mode, one other thing happens. It will not sequence the waypoints along your route. So it holds waypoint sequencing when in OBS mode, and it gives you the ability to dial in radials. You may once in a while come up with this scenario. If I take it out of GPS mode and it's VLOC mode, it can't read the resolver or what I have dialed in here on my indicator. So if you go to OBS mode in that case, you'll manually have to come up here with your cursor knob and dial in the radial that you want. Then when you're done, you just press OBS and it says cancel OBS, yes, press enter. Now we're flying a flight plan, and if you look at your main nav screen, we've got our distance to our next waypoint. That would be Emporia right here, 66.8 miles, and our time en route is 34 minutes and 43 seconds. Now that's to our next waypoint, but we want to know what the time and distance is for our complete trip. To do that, you can go to Flight Plan. Right here we're showing desired track and distance. You can change those fields, just like anywhere else. Go to Menu. With the big knob again, we scroll down to Change Fields, press Enter, and decide which field you want. With the little knob, we open up that subfield. Right there we have cumulative distance. If I press Enter, it'll show me. I can now leave that as my field, and anytime I want to know my total distance to destination, I look down at the bottom. OJC, it's 140 miles. If I wanted to make that my estimated time en route, see what my total time is en route, again, I'd go to Menu. I can change fields, and we just go to estimated time en route. And that'll give us to each leg and our total time. At this speed of 115 knots, it's going to take us 1 hour and 12 minutes. Again, you have the flexibility to configure these pages just the way you want. Earlier in the video, I had mentioned vertical speed required as one of the data fields that I like. On the main nav screen, I'm showing it right here. That's our VNav function. If on the 430 you go to your last nav page, take the little knob all the way to the right, you'll see the setup for it. The best thing with this VNav is it's a passive system. Basically, I'm flying Mooney airplanes here at Garmin, so I like to be at pattern altitude. The factory defaults are 4 miles out. I like to be at pattern altitude about 3 miles out. So I like to be 1,000 feet, pattern altitude, above waypoint. That would be whatever waypoint my destination waypoint is. And with the little knob, I can change my position here to 3 miles. Well, that's pretty consistent. Almost every airport I'm going to, I want to be at pattern altitude 3 miles out. Now I don't have to do anything else with this VNav. If we go back to the main nav page, I can just hold the clear key down and do that. As I'm flying along, the GPS knows my altitude. The GPS knows the elevation of the airport I'm going to, and it can automatically add that 1,000 feet and the 3 miles out. So as I'm flying along, just really enjoying the day, I can look here, vertical speed required. Right here it's telling me I need to descend 300 feet per minute. So what I'll do is I'll just fly along. When I see that thing get close to 500 feet per minute, I'll just start down. If I pick up a little speed on the way down, it'll go to a little bigger number, tell me to go 500 or 600 feet per minute. If I throttle back or slow down a little bit, it'll go to a smaller number. But it's a fantastic function. I do recommend trying it out. Once you set it up and look at it, you'll understand what it's doing. Now, VNav doesn't limit us for crossing restrictions. Let's use another example. They say cross Jayhawk at 8,000. Well, that was part of one of the intersections in my arrival. So I'll go over here to my VNav page. Again, activate my cursor. They say cross Jayhawk at 8, so I want to put 8,000 in. I press enter. Now with the little knob, I'm doing this crossing MSL. So that's above sea level. And I'm going to go ahead and leave the 3 miles in there, so that way I'm down a couple miles before I get to the intersection, so I make sure I am safe on the crossing. Then I come over here with the little knob again, open up the field, and it's got all the waypoints that are in my flight plan. So I press Jayhawk, enter. Now it's set. Again, I can hold that clear key down. This is telling me the rate of descent I need to make that crossing restriction. This should be pretty easy. It's 85 feet per minute. So I'll just fly along. When that gets closer to 500 feet per minute and I'm ready to start down, I just go down at the rate it's telling me.